Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 90. We are creeping ever closer to 100. It's hard to believe. So I do have a quick announcement before we start tonight. I have a whole bunch of classes and events that are coming up. I posted them on the Facebook page. You can head to paulataylorenergy.com, go to the book online page to sign up or learn more about any of those. I have multiple intro to dimensional frequency expansion or DFE classes. Once you've taken that, it includes the emerald activation. You can move on to the amethyst activation. I have a few of those. And then I am offering 2 more in-person sound baths here in the Tucson area. I am still planning to do some virtual sound baths. So if you're not here in Tucson, don't lose hope. We will get to that virtual space. It's just a matter of timing, and I'm kind of in flow with that. So tonight, I'm really excited about tonight's topic, and hopefully I can kind of keep myself reined in because I have a lot of thoughts about this. I want to talk about awakening, and we sort of got away from awakening, and now this is the second week in a row that we're kind of doing an awakening. It's like a series. I don't want to call it a series because this might just be part 2, but we might do some more. And the first thing I want to say is that I want to be clear. I'm using the word awakening because that best describes what I am in right now. But any kind of shift, any kind of growth, any kind of change in your life is going to affect you in the ways that I'm talking about. Whether you are kind of just stepping into awareness and recognizing some triggers or some trauma in your life, whether you're kind of deep in the muck of trying to kind of resolve some of that, whether in that integrative healing where you're bringing some clarity, expansion, and harmony to these old traumas, to these old triggers, whether you're in that rebirth process where you're kind of in that muddy part and then you're reborn, whether you're in awakening. All of these are words for change. So if what I'm talking about when I say awakening, if that doesn't relate to you, then fill in the word change or the word growth or the word transition, because what I'm talking about applies to any of those situations. So last week we talked about how stuff was getting weird, and we talked about overcoming the fear around that, and we did a meditation around that, and we're going to kind of build on that tonight. But as usual, you don't have to have watched last week's episode to kind of understand where we're at here. But what I want to talk about tonight is this point in your change, in your shift, in your awakening, whatever word you like for that, where you get really uncomfortable and you start to be like, who am I? Who am I anymore? Like, I don't know who I am anymore. Things are changing. Everything's different. I don't know. There's so much kind of shifting that you get to this point of it can actually become like an existential crisis where you're just like, who am I? What am I here for? And some of the signs of that are noticing that things aren't affecting you the same way that they used to. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sound bath that I did, because that very much sent me into this like, who am I? What's happening to me? Kind of mode. But some of the signs that you'll notice are that maybe you're relating to people differently than you used to, or sometimes even people will actually leave your life because you're no longer vibrating on the same frequency that you used to. So when you're changing, your frequency, your vibration is changing. And so we tend to attract similar vibrations. We've talked about that a ton on the show. So when your vibration changes, you start to attract different things. So you might be drawn to different people that you weren't necessarily drawn to before, or a new person comes into your life, or someone shows up for you in a different way. But also sometimes you can have some difficulty. It can be hard to relate to people who are used to the old you, the old version of yourself that you were vibrating in. When you're not vibrating there anymore and someone is expecting that vibration from you, that can absolutely cause some friction. And sometimes those relationships will kind of end or change in a way that feels kind of sad, or kind of, there's a little bit of grief around some of that stuff. Another way that you can tell that you're kind of in this state of like, who am I now? What is happening? is that the old habits that you used to use for coping no longer serve you, to the point that, like, my example is that I cannot drink alcohol the way that I used to, because the last few times I have, I have a completely different reaction to it in my body than I used to. I don't feel relaxed. I don't feel like I'm enjoying myself. I feel like it's changing my vibration in a way that I don't care for, and I kind of get anxious. It actually is kind of making me anxious. And so it's hard, because if you are used to relating to people in a certain way, or relying on a certain substance or behavior or whatever it is, and I'm not talking necessarily even about in a bad way. We have habits. Not all of our habits are bad habits, so if you had a habit that you ran 5 miles a day, and then now all of a sudden your knees are not into it anymore, that can actually be a sign of this shift. Your body shifts, your mind shifts, your emotional state shifts. And so when all of these changes start happening at once, we can get to this point where it's kind of like, who am I? Like, I don't like this anymore. Like, my interests are changing. My focus is changing. I no longer like the things that I used to like. And it's a little bit disconcerting. And so we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to give a little bit more like concrete examples. And then we're going to talk about, like, what do we do? Like, how do I deal with this? Because it's uncomfortable, and I don't know who I am anymore. And a big part of that too is this, like, yearning to serve your purpose. When you are awakening, when you are starting to vibrate at this more expanded frequency, when your frequency starts getting clearer and more expanded, you might start to feel like the things that you used to do feel empty, because they are not serving you on this soul level. They're not serving your spiritual path. So, like, for me, something like relaxing on the beach with a cocktail does not serve me in the way it used to. It feels a little bit empty to me. I feel like I am being called to do something deeper, even in that moment. And that doesn't mean that you're always doing deep stuff and you're always in service, but it can really kind of mess with your feelings about what you're doing with your life, or how you're showing up in your relationships. So we're going to talk a little bit about, like, what do we do about that? But I talked a little bit last week about the sound bath I did. I want to go into that a little bit to kind of illustrate how this happens and what I'm talking about. Because I'm a person who does a lot of shifting. I just had lunch with a dear friend, or breakfast this morning, and we were talking about, like, how much I've changed over the last 2 years. And it's pretty incredible. Like, I've always been sort of doing this work, but something about the last couple of years, since I started working with sound especially, that really kind of kicked up my growth. And so I'm used to kind of being in that discomfort and having those shifts. But I did this sound bath the other day. And I think I've mentioned this a little bit, so stick with me if I'm kind of repeating what I said last week, because we're going to go to a little bit different place. But I was driving to this sound bath, and I had this feeling like it was the most powerful sense that I've ever had, that I was in exactly the right place at exactly the right moment, doing exactly the right thing. And it felt very big and very overwhelming, to be honest, like, in a good way. Overwhelming in an awesome way, overwhelming in an awe-inspiring way, but still overwhelming. It was like, what do I do with all of this? The energy felt so big and powerful and sacred. And so what I did was I asked for help. I said, I need help to kind of hold this energy so that I can function. And I went to the sound bath, and I started the sound bath, and it completely changed my entire reality. And that is not an exaggeration. That sounds like a crazy thing to say. But while I was channeling the sound, I was not fully present in my ego at all. I think I was completely out of my ego. And I was present. I was there. I remember what happened. But I became a very clear channel for frequency to come through me. And it was an extremely powerful experience. It was extremely powerful for me. It was extremely powerful for the people who were there. I've gotten a little bit of feedback about how powerful it was. And it left me completely altered, to the point that like later that day and that evening, like my husband was even saying to me, like, what's the matter with you? Like, you're acting really weird. And I was, because I was not myself. I was still out of the ego part of myself. I was in this like fully expanded state. And I came back to myself, and I did purposely I did some sound, I did some primordial chakra tones to kind of ground myself back in my body, because as we've talked about a lot on the show, we can't be effective if we're not present, if we're not in our bodies, if we're sort of floating off in space. But that wasn't exactly the experience. It wasn't like I was out of my body. It was like I was so big that I was everywhere. It was a very powerful, I'm just going to keep you, that's powerful experience. It was a very intense experience. And so for the next few days afterwards, I was really like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, I don't know if I can do this again. I said that to my friend today. Like, if I keep doing this, who will I be? Because after one experience of this, I am completely altered. And I can give you some examples of that. And that's kind of how this topic came up. So it wasn't just I was relating to people differently. Like my husband was like, what's the matter with you? You're acting really weird. We went to Mexico. We went to the beach, which we do pretty often this last weekend. And that's my recharge place. It's my happy place. It's my sort of come back to myself place usually. And it felt really off to me. And then I started getting all in my head, like, oh, what am I doing? And I'm not in the right place. And why is this, like, something's wrong? And I had a little bit of grief that was coming up about Emmett, my dog who passed away, and a little bit of grief about my dad. We just passed his 5-year anniversary of his death. So I had to kind of go and like, okay, what's going on? Why do I feel off? Is there some energy that I need to release? But what I recognized kind of as time went on, and as I started thinking about this topic, was that I am not the same person I was the last time I went down there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing when things feel off. And that's what I want to get into tonight. Because when things feel off, when we get in discomfort, it tends to bring up a lot of fear, and I'm like, well, this is the place that we come to all the time. And why am I not feeling the way I usually do down here? And am I doing something wrong? And what's happening? And I got really kind of in my head, and I got a little bit in fear about it. But what I realized is that we did a whole show, I think, about sitting in discomfort. I want to reframe that idea, because this is what came to me out of all of this. So you're in this really uncomfortable place. I told my friend this morning, like, I might as well name this year like the year of Paula being completely out of her comfort zone, because everything I've been doing that sound bath, I had to step way outside of my comfort zone. And I think part of the reason it took me so long to schedule that was a little bit of the fear about, kind of, oh, I don't have enough bowls. And there was some of that stuff, but it was this fundamental fear that when I do this, I will be different. I will no longer be the same person that I was 10 minutes before I started the sound bowl experience, the sound bath experience. I will be a completely different person. And that is so threatening to the ego, because it's like the ego is based on this, we talk a lot. We have talked before on the show about tying production to worth. So we're raised in this society where what you do is who you are, right? What do you do for a living? What do you produce? And if you're a woman especially, you were also raised that how you look is what your worth is. How do you look? How good do you look? How much do you produce? So the ego is sort of dependent on these like external factors about, I do this, I am this, I look this way. And when that all shifts, it's like, we think we're on this solid foundation, This is what the ego thinks. We're not. We're never on a solid foundation. That's a lie. It's a complete fabrication. We tell ourselves to make ourselves feel safe. So we're in this shifting sand going, since I just went to the beach, we'll use a beach metaphor, and the tide is going in and out and things are always changing, always changing. But what we do is we dig our feet down in the sand and we go, I'm not going to change. I am me. I am me, to our detriment and to the detriment of the people around us. And when we start to let go of that, and we start to flow and move with the tides, and we start to change, then the ego all of a sudden is like, oh, if I can change this much in an hour, who will I be next year? And there's like existential crisis comes up of like, who am I? Who, if I'm not the person who loves the beach and who does this and who, like, who am I anymore? If my husband says I'm acting weird, like, and we get really scared. We get in our heads about it. But what I came to see and what I would like to present, a lot of times on the show, we're kind of just reframing things. We're looking at them from a different perspective. Because I was hemming and hawing and like, I didn't understand. Like, why does the beach feel different this time? Why? There's all these why questions. Why am I acting different? Why do I feel so different? Why is this? And then what all of a sudden came to me intuitively, as the like real answer usually comes, like out of that ego, like freaking out mind and into that intuitive connection, came to me this idea of being in the mystery, of accepting the mystery. So we talk about discomfort. We talk about stepping outside of our comfort zone. And what does that really mean? Stepping outside of your comfort zone means like, I don't know what's going to happen. That's one of the things that scares me the most when I have a hard time in new situations. I have a hard time meeting new people because I want to know what's going to happen. I want the safety, the reassurance that like, okay, I'm going into this environment. I've been here before. I know what to expect. And like the last several months is just like constantly, I'm just out of that comfort zone over and over and over again. And what is that really but an acknowledgement that like, I don't know. I'm in the mystery. I don't know why this is happening. Like that sound bath was so powerful and moving, and there was this huge amount of energy moved and shifted. I don't know why. I mean, I can tell you the mechanics of, like, yes, I became a channel and frequencies came through me and they moved energy. Like we could get into that, but like, really, I don't know why. When my husband says you're acting weird, I came home. I don't know why. And you know what? It's okay. We do not know nearly as much as we like to think we know. And that is all coming from that ego mind. I need to know what's happening. I need to know what comes next. We never really know. We are on that shifting sand, whether we like it or not, however deep we kind of bury our feet and say, I'm not going to move, a big old wave's going to come and knock us down anyway. There is no solid foundation there. The solid foundation is our intuitive and energetic connections. That is our solid foundation, is our soul, is our divine light, is our spirit, whatever word you want to use for any of that. That is the only part of us that is solid, that is unchanging. And so, it's making me like, I'm getting like tingles all over my body. So when we start shifting in a way that brings us into further alignment with our soul, we're going to get further and further into this mystery because we cannot possibly comprehend with our little tiny ego mind, with our brain, with our physical meat sack, what it really means to be divine. And that is why so many people run from that, because it is very challenging. It's very scary. I recently had a channeled conversation with Jesus, which is not words I ever thought I would say, and certainly not publicly. But what he said to me was that people completely missed the point of his being here on earth. And they were so threatened by the idea that he came here to show us who we are, who we have the potential to be, that we had to put him on a pedestal. We had to say he was a God, because the idea that we could be the same as him was so threatening and scary to us. This work is scary. I say that all the time. I have been doing this since I was 16. And I have these experiences where, like I did after the sound bath, where I was just like completely blown away and in awe and also terrified out of my mind. But here is what I know. When you have an experience that is expansive, you are on the right track. And no matter how much little fear comes up about that, we talked about that last week. I said, stuff's getting weird. I'm having channel conversations with Jesus. Like, what is happening to me? It is expansive. It is loving. It is changing my experience of myself, and my experience of the people in my life, my experience of life itself. I have so much joy. And it's funny, I was just talking earlier today about how I get so overwhelmed with joy that I start crying, and then I get frustrated because I'm like, it's kind of like when you get angry and you're like trying to get your point across. I am not crying because I am sad. I am crying because I am in absolute awe of what is happening to me. And if I can get out of my own way, if I can get out of that fearful ego response and just admit, I am in the mystery. I am meant to be in the mystery. I don't have to know why things are happening or exactly what is happening. All I have to do is recognize that anytime something is expansive to me, intuitively I know that takes a little bit of work. I had a great conversation this morning. We talked about discernment and how do you know the difference between like the fear that comes from the ego and kind of an intuitive hit that maybe something's not right for you. That is why we practice. That is why we have spiritual tools. But when you get into that expanded state, you know deep down inside there is a silence there, and the silence terrifies us. That is something. I have so much more silence in my mind than I ever have in my entire life. And in that silence is this frequency of God, this frequency of divine unconditional love. And that is what we are here for. And we will never understand exactly what that is while we're here. But we can have these direct experiences of it and allow ourselves to sit in the mystery and recognize that it's uncomfortable and recognize that it brings up fear and do it anyway. Every time I step outside my comfort zone, I'm like, it took me 3 weeks to call that person that I needed to reach out to kind of help me get through some of this Christian imagery stuff that was coming up for me. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, but I did it. And I have no shame or guilt about how long it took me to do it, because 2 years ago, I maybe wouldn't have done it at all. And a year ago, it maybe would have taken me months. So we just keep stepping into the mystery. We're not even stepping outside of our comfort zone. We're stepping into the mystery. And in the mystery is so much joy and so much wonder and so much love. So join me in the mystery. We will go there together. And I think that's what we're going to do for our meditation tonight. Last week, we worked a little bit on kind of overcoming fears. And so what I want to do tonight is just be in that silence, be in that mystery together. We're going to come into relaxation like we normally do. I have a couple bowls here. I'm going to do some sound because for me, the sound calls in the mystery. This sound is the ultimate mystery for me. I don't know. Somebody asked me the other day, or at the end of the sound bath, somebody said to me, how did you go on for that long? Or I've had people before say, where does that sound come from? It comes through me. I thought the other day, oh, I wonder if my singing voice has changed from all of this toning that I do. Nope. Same old voice, same old like limits in terms of like how high and low I can sing. But when I call these frequencies in, this sound that needs to come through does. And so sometimes it's such a high pitched sound. I could never reproduce it if I was like, again, trying to sing a song, or it's this low rumbling sound that is just, it's a mystery, and I love it. It's a beautiful mystery, and we're going to go there together tonight. So let's meditate together. So for tonight's meditation, come into whatever position feels right to you. We're going to sit in mystery. So if you'd like to sit in mystery, you can. If you'd like to lie in mystery, you can. And remember that the mystery lies in the silence. So in between the breaths, as I guide you to breathe, notice the little silence at the top of your breath. Notice the little silence as you let your breath out before you breathe back in. Notice the silence in between the tones when I bring some toning in. And just let yourself exist in that silence and let go of judgment. If you're having thoughts coming up, that's fine. Let the thoughts come up, let them go by. Don't grab onto them, just let them float off and then come back to the silence. And see how much you actually hear in the silence, in that mystery. So take a nice deep breath in through your nose, sigh it out through your mouth. If you'd like to introduce that nice ha sound that vibrates the vagus nerve, that helps bring you out of fight, flight, or freeze into ease. The mystery is found in ease. When we are in that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze, we are distracted because we are in fear. So come into ease now. Breathe deeply, sigh that breath out, let that audible ha sound vibrate that vagus nerve. Let yourself start to feel heavy. Let go of everything that happened up to this point today. Let go of everything that's going to happen. It's all a mystery anyway. So let that just be part of this mystery that you're sitting in. Allow the top of your head, that crown chakra, to open and call in that ultimate mystery, that unconditional love, that divine light that is the source of all that is. Let that come in through your head. Let it bathe your brain in light, in love. Let it come into your throat and your neck, into your shoulders. Let it flow down your upper arms, into the elbows and forearms, into your wrists and hands. Allow that beautiful light, that mystery, that love to flow into your chest and your upper back. Let it come into the belly, into the mid-back. That beautiful cave of the low belly and low back. Mystery to be found even within our own bodies. A lot of times we're not present in our own beautiful mystery. Take a deep breath and draw it into your low belly. And as you sigh it out, let that beautiful light flow into your hips and your pelvis. Let yourself come present into this part of your body. Take another deep breath in, and as you sigh it out, let that light flow down your thighs and into your knees, coming fully present into this lower part of your body. Take another nice deep breath in, and as you sigh it out, let that energy, that beautiful light and love flow down from your knees, through the lower legs, all the way to your ankles and feet, and out the bottom of your feet, whether that's into the earth, or if you're lying back, it's just kind of coming out your feet. Let yourself for just a moment see yourself as you truly are, which is a being of illuminated light, of powerful light, of strong light. Let yourself see that light. It's coming out of all of your pores now, out of all of the cells of your body. You're radiating light, and this is the truth of your being. This is the mystery of your being. You don't need to know exactly what this light is. Just feel its radiance, feel its warmth. And stay with this visualization, if you'd like, of yourself shining as a sun. Keep calling that light in. Or if you'd like, come fully into the silence, into that mystery, into that space between breaths, into that space between your thoughts, where you can have a direct experience of your divinity, of your true nature, of your mystery. Be in your mystery now. Recognize that underneath the layers of that ego, that personality, that part of yourself that you thought was who you are, is the truth of your identity, your Satnam, your divine source. Let yourself feel that. Let yourself feel how sacred it is to be in this mystery, to be connected to your soul, to your light, to that which made you. Nam. The truth of your identity is that you are divine, that you are the mystery. And if you can allow yourself to sit in the mystery, you have connected with that deepest part of yourself that knows what you're here to do, what you're called to, what your service is. And you can start to align yourself with that service in whatever way it presents for you. It will be different for us all, as it's meant to be. The more time you spend in this state, the more access you will have to joy and wonder and bliss. And the fear will come up again, but you have the tools to breathe through that fear, to sit in the mystery and let go of that ego fear, to come back to your true nature, which is love, unconditional, golden light and love. As you're ready, you can gently allow that crown chakra to close or leave it open for your highest good. And allow that beautiful energy one more time to flow into your head, into your neck and shoulders, down your arms and into your chest and back, your belly and hips. Let it come down into your legs, all the way to your ankles and feet. And again, feel yourself here. See yourself illuminating light like the rays of a sun. Let that light shine out. Let that mystery unfold as it's meant to for you. When you're ready, you can begin to move your feet and ankles, maybe roll your wrists and hands, move your head and neck around, and affirm with me out loud, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body, and I embrace the mystery of life. I am fully present in my body, and I recognize that I am divine light and love. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you for being in the mystery with me. Have a beautiful rest of your evening and a mysterious rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind On Wednesday.